morning, church.
Good morning.
We'll start this morning with our scripture reading. Let us therefore fear, lest the promise being left us of entering into his rest, and of you should seem to come short of it. Any of you should seem to come short of it. For unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spake in a certain place of the seventh day on this wise, and God did rest the seventh day from all his works. I have read to you from the book of Hebrews, chapter 4, verses 1 through 4, and may the Lord add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of his word. Most Holy Father, we come to you this morning with bowed down heads. We want to thank and praise you, Father, because you're a good God. And we know that you can do anything but fail. We want to thank you for your word. We want to thank you for your son, Jesus, that died for the sins of the whole world, Father. We want to just thank you. We want to thank you that you woke us up this morning and started us on our way. You saw to it that we made it here once again to the house of prayer, safe. We want to ask you today to bless those that are here, those that might be on their way, and those that are lost, touch them also. We want to ask you to touch the bereaved families, those that are sick and shut in, those that are suffering from mental illness, Father. Touch them and let them know that without you they can do nothing. Just touch, Father. Touch this United States and then touch the whole world, Father. Give us more love, Father, to spread and so that it may abound. Father, as we go through your word today, open all hearts and minds. Let us take in your word, Father, and as I always say, not just be hearers, but doers also. In your son Jesus' name, we give you the praise and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, Jesus.
And at this time, we will call Sister Winston to come up and share the Sunday school lesson with us.
Praise the Lord. And everybody, let the church say amen.
Amen.
Man, we're talking about long, long oppression. Long, hard. Can't say that we ain't been told we're going to have trouble. But one day, here our lesson today, text comes from Exodus, the first chapter, 7 through 22. The related scriptures are Acts 7, 17 through 19, and Psalms 105, 23 through 25. The time around 1528 BC, and the places in Israel. This lesson was written to Israel and for our day for the believers. Moses is the author. We know God is the author of all, but he used Moses. Here we start in our lesson talking about a long, hard oppression. Here we find out in our lesson today that we have Golda Meir was Prime Minister for my introduction of Israel from 1969 to 1974. That's someone in our day we know about. Serving her country during a critical period that included Yom Kippur War in 1973. Meir rise to the most powerful position in Israel, follow along a circuitous and unexpected route. She was born in Ukraine, but moved to Wisconsin at an early age. She became a school teacher, but after marrying, she and her husband migrated to Israel where Golda worked on kibbles doing simple agricultural work. 48 years later, she became the fourth person to serve as Israel Prime Minister. Who could have imagined it? Golda and scepters, the people of Israel also took a long winding road course to become the great nation God promised to make for Abraham, descendant. It's not what they expected or even wanted, but through it all, God was working out his plan for them. Our plan often change. God's plan does not change. He is present and work and leading us, teaching us, and molding us through all our experience to make us who he wants us to be. He asks only for our faith in him and faithfulness to him. The lesson outlined is Israel prospered in Egypt, Israel suffered in Egypt, and Israel survived in Egypt. Let all our minds be clear and let the Holy Spirit have his way. We're going to start with reading our scripture text, so we'll have to start with you, Brother Michael. Will you give us, let's say, 4 verses? 4.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
Praise the Lord. Sister Hardy, will you give us verse 11 and 12?
Therefore they still set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure city, Pithom and Ramsey. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
Verse 13, verse 14, give me 4 verses.
And the Egyptian made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives better with hard bondage and mortar and brick and in all manner of service in the field. All their services wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shipra, and the name of the other Pure.
Sister Ann, could you give me 4 verses?
And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon these stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him out. You shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called before the midwives, and said unto them, Why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women, not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered, the midwives come in unto them.
Praise the Lord. Christine, stand up. You gotta stand up. Therefore, God dealt well with the midwife, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. Brother Ridgway, did you give us the last two verses?
And it came to pass, because the midwife feared God, that he made them house. And Pharaoh changed all Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save life. Save life.
Amen. May the Lord bless the reading of the word. Truly, as I stand here, I remember a couple of days before I left how my eyes was being tricked. And I have to say, I thank God to see Brother Prince. Don't give up. He still, even though he had surgery on his eye, it shows you what God can do. So many stories I heard on the day. This long, hard oppression. It came with trouble. And it's so good the way we had our lessons, each one on top of the other. Let us know about the children of Israel from the beginning. I like how this here lesson let us know a prophecy that was made is coming forth. You hear people tell you about prophecies, different things, but when you hear and you actually see it, can you imagine? Here they said Abraham's grandson Jacob, also known as Israel, his family was spared from famine. You remember when we had the lesson that they moved from one place to the other and how the brothers got back together? I mean, it's so interesting when you don't read and know. The brothers had sold to Joseph, and that lesson tells him that. He got to the point that he even had to go through others. So it's like Joseph that jumped up to be king. But we at the lesson now where Joseph has died. All the things he did, bringing his family there, getting them to know, they said the Jews still stayed together. Don't you know that's what we should be doing? I don't care what's going on with the other people. We pray for them and hope that they change. But we should stay together. They put all the Jews together. Joseph had his family together. And they was among them, but they didn't do what the Egyptian did. So here, we found out they was in bondage. Here, we find out, a lot of people be saying, yeah, but if you're in Jesus, you're not in a bondage. It's a different bondage that we're talking about. Man can put a bondage on, but God can unloose it. Here we find Israel at the place they don't prove to be. The lesson said, had abundance of blessing. We have abundance and fruitful situation right now in our land. They had multiplied exceedingly. Don't you know if someone look over here at the house prayer and they see you growing and you walking in the Lord, don't you know that enemy is not going to stay out? He come in and he uses things. And here we see they there, they still under bondage, but God was in the midst. Here it said this new king was over them, and he was harsher than the other kingdom. And the people that was in charge, they didn't know anything about Joseph. Don't you know, coming over here, some of our leaders failed and went on home. But some of them look over here, and they want to take charge. I said, don't you know, God wants his people to continue with his word. Here, this here king is supposed to be so wise, he decided to make him a plan. But remember, God got a plan. Here we see, as Egypt, they was in Egypt and bondage, he couldn't stop them from prospering. The enemy tried to stop him, but the more he tried, they look, oh, you got something else. I mean, you look, and I'm not talking about just material things. These people had spiritual things going on. And this is what a child of God has. Spiritual things come on. You try to hold a child of God down, he blesses them even more. You might not see it like they said, oh, they going through something. They in bondage. They had a God like that. All looks ain't like. Those people in Egypt couldn't sleep at night. They couldn't buy good health. They couldn't buy what God was giving to Israel. And so I look at this lesson talking about long, hard oppression. We're going through a long, hard oppression. But God's showing us he did it for his people. This here is for believers also. Here they was prospering. And you look over there and they said, whoa, the king said, boy, they keep having more people and more people. Get scared of you when the soldiers start marching together. When they got their war clothes on. And they see on the war field, you coming in unison. And you got your head up high, you know what you got to do when you get out there. Well, that's the way God wants his people to be. Here, even though they was in bondage, God let them multiply. He had already told them. Didn't he tell us we're going to have the victory? Here, I looked at this lesson, and they were saying, they keep on multiplying and keep on working together. Something's going to happen. And we got to keep them separated. Enemy coming in now. Yeah. He said, now, I got to make sure I'm going to know what's going on. So you see them creak in every now and then. See what you're going through. See if you're really working together. Then they throw another dot at you. Say, here, he put taskmasters. Oh, I looked at this lesson talking about, when I got in here, talking about how Israel should prosper, but also how they suffered. It said they prospered. Why did they prosper? Because God was with them all the way. Even though they was going through something, going through Egypt and had a hard time, God was there. And here I looked at how people always look at material things as prosper. Don't you know they have a mind? A lot of people don't have a mind to even think what the next moment going to be. And God will give it to you. Don't you know you can come into a situation and God will show you everything? That's something that man can't buy. He was showing them the way, showing them what they should be doing through hard times. Here, I looked at this lesson, and right away, it says, don't you know, we ain't going to be here always. But we need to train so they'll know that when the enemy comes in, what you should be doing. You ain't supposed to be acting like them out there, here, that don't know the Lord. All the generation, they say they grew mighty. They filled the land. Said every time you look on, they went with 7, and here they now, they just multiply. 7, and they just now said it's the numbers in numerous. Don't you know, if we put the word of God out there, you'll be amazed how many we got all over the world. See, we ain't just the only saints. God bring us all together in this time. He has a season. He had a season for everything that happened in the Bible. Here, talk about how Joseph died. People never know us. People that been in this church, Applebee's, they gone on. People don't know them. New people come in, they don't know who that is. But you do while you here. That's all God required. That's all Joseph did. And said, here, even though Joseph's gone, Here they said for a period. Here they got to the point, they still was there in bondage. But all the time they was there. And you notice when Joseph was there, they got a lot of things because he was in charge of everything. Don't forget that God put him in the Egyptian as a slave, and still he was able to give his people, bring them in. So here we look at this lesson talking about Israel and the long, hard oppression. They kept in mind the things. They knew it was God that brought them out. You don't have to know much, but use that little that you do know. Israel is suffering now in Egypt. Anyone want to talk about the first part, talking about Israel prospering in Egypt? But that's, you got to remember what God done did for them. Don't ever forget that. They prosper. And we prosper. We got the victory, and you got to remember all those things. So when all those things start, the depression get harder, just remember what God already done did, and you can move forward. You want to say something? Anybody? Want your ills to suffer in Egypt?
Well, I just want to say, how they prospered, through Joseph, like you said, the brothers sold them and told them well, and, tried to kill them, but they couldn't kill him because God had planned for him, you know what I mean? And he went and they made him an emperor and all that stuff. That was God sending that man ahead to prepare for his people. He prepared a place for his people to come and see his family. God blessed them, and they prospered through the things that Joseph did. He was a good servant of the Lord, and he obeyed the word, and God prospered the whole country. People love it.
And we also want to remember too, as we go with Israel, suffering in Egypt. When you under someone, you are, especially if they are afraid of you. And this is what I saw. Fear came in. Fear came in because they was afraid someone was going to take what they have. It's amazing what people will do when they think somebody's going to take what they have. But don't you know what God has for you is for you. Here we see in this last Israel suffering in Egypt that after they got them, say after Joseph died, and they said that he went on, well, fellow was a new king. So, and I might not be pronouncing it right, but he said that the first historical, these were foreigner people. They filtrated into Egypt. They wasn't there in the beginning. So they, of course, they did not know about Joseph. So here we see these strange people that came in and they don't wiggle themselves into positions. So now they making the decision. Here you see right away that it said they wasn't as numerous as the Israelites. So right there they got afraid. When you have a meeting, people be talking about this family getting together over here and this family getting together over there. Well, he's thinking about, hey, these Israelites, quite a few, they might decide that, they had rumors of wars like we have now. And I mean, if you compare to what we got now, it's what's going on there now. It's just in a different, season. But you got rumors of war all the time. They was fighting war. And they would take these slaves, and this is where I'd like to tell the children that people that our color was enslaved, it wasn't easy to get where we at. It was long, hard, and they was oppressed. Here you see these people talking about Israelites. Here, the king, they want them to get mighty. And that's how they thought about us. They having no babies. Oh, we're going to separate the families. Send mothers here and there. That's in our day. But here, all they was thinking about is they keep growing, they're going to get together. They can, they can go with another one that we fight and overcome. They have fear. fear that they're going to lose what they have. Here, they were so afraid that the Egyptian that was there going to entice them, and they grow on the next said native land was going to come in and fight against him. So here we see the ruler of Egypt, he was increasingly feeling threat about his position. Here he was saying, I've got to do something about this. And so here we see the circumstance arise where he figured, and this is what usually happens, he inflicted more tests on them, made it hard for them. They said they tried to make bricks out of straw. I mean, they had got to the place they would put unjust affliction on the people. Here he had them tests made to put there to make sure he get the news of how they was doing. But this was all in the plan of God, how his people was going to be. This nation was just going to grow. Here, start off with little, but with God, it can be many. Here, the sight of the city and how God had set this up and allowed that to happen. The oppression that they put on the Israelites wasn't, the king saw, it wasn't working. So he inflicted more. But the more he afflicted, the more they grew. Here, the more we get afflicted, the closer we should draw to God. Here, the proper, implying, divine work. Years later, Israelites left Egypt and probably numbered over 2 million. God's unique blessing and multiplying the Israelites, in spite of affliction, was not welcomed by the oppressor. So now the plan, what he was to stop them, it ain't stopping them. So now, when you see somebody put one crook into the wheel, trying to stop that wheel, you know if they see it ain't working, they got to figure out something else. So I can see him toiling what to do next. Here, after he decided, okay, we put more work on them, but it's not stopping them from multiplying. So he got to see a taskmaster, and they made it even harder. They took the mortar and the bricks from the Egyptian building projects. They forced them to work in fields, and sometimes they said they would get out of the field, and before you know it, they had to get up again. It seems like it was ever working. Whatever they did, but beyond what was normal, they didn't do it like let a person work, like we said, 7 hours. That's why I said, you got to be thankful for God, whatever position He's in, because He's the one going to work you out of this. The more they put on them, and this is, I think, how the slaves of our days, the more they put on us, the more God opened up the doors for us. The more they put on us, the more we learn how to know that we got to get education. The more they put on us, the more we know we have to do to prove ourselves. But we knew, as we grew up from slavery, that we had to also keep God first. Here we see Israel suffering in Egypt. People tell you that a Christian ain't supposed to. This is for believers. The Bible goes and tells you throughout, it ain't just this book, they suffer. Any comments on Israel's suffering in Egypt?
I wanted to say, you know, when you were talking, it took my mind back. It was something you said about how man tried to get in there and stop that population. And I thought back, all the way back to slavery. And you know, when we look back, and I would wonder, as hard as people worked, you know, in the cotton fields, in the tobacco fields, and whatever, and they worked from sun up to sundown, and get up, and you wonder, how did they even have the strength to have families? And yet you see that they did prosper. And many people, even you, I heard you talk about how many sisters and brothers that were born into your family. And I know of some too. And so the black population still multiplied.
Amen.
And then back in, I say from 60 to 70, 1960 to 70, it was a time when the white folks who were in charge of medications were pushing birth control.
That's right.
And they was pushing it on the blacks.
Black.
And everywhere you looked, you saw the other ethnicities pushing strollers with 2 and 3 babies, but they was pushing birth control on us. But we had hypertension and all these other things, and a lot of us couldn't take those birth control pills, you know.
That's
So
true.
it didn't work. We were still having babies,
That's right.
you know. And now that I can see what's going on and learn more about God and His working, He was showing man can put one thing on you, but my plan can be different for you.
Amen. And that's why you
And he
can't
gave us
just leave.
strength.
Sorry.
And and with those people, he gave them strength.
Oh, yeah.
He gave them strength. And they built, you know, they built up. And they couldn't be stopped. It was seen that they would be too tired to multiply or to do anything, but God gave them strength
And that's why you can't do this lesson without referring back
without God.
to referring back to slavery. This here real closer to related. See, it says that they forgot about Joseph, but God has a way to continue letting us know you can have long, hard oppression, but I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this here lesson, like I said, it brings out us something closer that we can relate to. So here we see that Egyptian and Hazzards, the people was over them. You gonna have somebody over you
Mhm.
all the time. But who are you putting your faith in? This is a faith lesson too. God had already told them that they was gonna go through this.
Mhm.
So God already done warned us that we're gonna go through something. It's gonna be long, hard, but I'm there all the time working it out for your good. A lot of times we don't even, God be blessing us right in the midst of a situation that seems like, you know.
Yeah.
But and if you really calm down and talk with God, and He'll say, it's all right, because I'm working it out for your good, whatever it is. Even though they was going this, God was working it out
All the
for their
time.
good. So it's like we have illnesses and things that hit upon. Don't get excited. Come back to God. And He done gave us a key, y'all. We can talk to Him. That's what prayer is all about. Going to Him. And then the Word help us to know what to do in this situation. Here, long, hard oppression, talking about how the Israelite here now has a circumstance where things are getting hard.
Mhm.
Can you relate to that now? Oh, everybody, Trump, but God is in the midst. So,
Yes,
you know, it changed from, and what we're going to do, to God is in charge. Yeah. So here, we go into the lesson talking about how Israel suffered. How Israel, as you suffer. Here, they prospered, but it don't look like they're in a situation of slavery. You prosper.
Mhm. That's true. And you know, you got a king here that don't know nothing about God.
All right, that's what he is.
And he's overtaken in fear. I mean, nowhere do we see that the Israelites had any intention of revolting against him.
None.
None.
That's the enemy.
That's the
Get all in your head. Oh, this here, and you create a situation.
Create a
that you didn't have.
situation.
Yeah, you getting all upset about the disease and what's going on, and you don't see that The answer's already there. You know, and you can't see it because you're concentrating on the problem. They was concentrating on, okay, I got to, them that have ruin, I got to obey them. I'm gonna make these bricks. And God already done told us we're gonna have hard work. He told them. Told them it was going to. So this is just a wonderful lesson. I love. But you know, I like how even though he ordered a lot of things, it didn't work. So he had to come up with something else. Didn't you know that that's the enemy? If he can't work in one thing, he comes again. Did you step back and talk with God before you start zeroing? Oh yeah, that's right. Did you? No. Here we see this king. He don't now. He said, "Oh, they still multiply. I'm gonna take a bold action. I'm gonna kill every male." Oh, they ain't stopped it yet, y'all. They still trying to kill the male. Hallelujah. Oh, they policy. He wanted to carry out now. Okay, I'm on subtract. But see, when you go talk about what you gonna do, God got a plan. I like how they use a lot of big words in here, but I tell you, it's a gap there when you don't have God in the midst. Here, that evil Egyptian king. Hey, whether I know his name or not, I know that he represents evil. That's right. And here it said the Egyptian king found out that I'm going to put these midwives, I'm going to call them in. I'm king. That's when people think they got it on. I'm king. They got to do what I say. They said these midwives in 2 positions. The Bible moves. God I notice, don't dwell on names, but when he gives you a name, it's a reason. And I thank God it said everybody ain't going to be named, but it was other midwives too. But it was told when the Hebrews, the Israelites, have a baby, I want you to kill that male. Save the daughters, but kill the male. Here, I see God saying, all my life I've been telling you, ever since I created, thou shalt not kill. He just was going to outright kill his baby. But there came a flaw in his plan again. Why? Because God had a plan. And nobody can stop God's plan. Yeah. You can talk. Yeah, you honor God, I'm going to tell you, he will bless you when no one else could expect it. Yeah, he has said the entire understanding and how the king has spoken. That these 2 midwives that he mentioned, they feared God. So when the king said, it still ain't good, the number still ain't stopping. It's going up. So somebody taking inventory. You know, like they say, they doing census now. They've been doing census. That ain't nothing. And what they do is they do that so they control what area they gonna put this in. But here is that that whole action they did. God has a divine intervention, and that's what we need to dwell on. So I hear something. They said that the king sought not to punish the 2 midwives, but he accepted the explanation when they said, before we get there, these women are strong. And I'm going to tell you, it's something about working, a woman that's carrying a child. If she keep on working, her labor is easy. It's the way God made us. I don't notice that. I was listening to you say you attempt. God don't notice fix it. So when he said help me, your husband can't do it all. Right. They don't do it together. And he can't bow. And people want you to do things, but you, like I said, God will talk to you and said, yeah, hey, we can do this. Yeah, well, you're doing this, why not do that? But instead, you see here that I'm looking at this here king and how he said, to the midwife. They got a job to do, and they knew what they had to do. But they knew God was not in this. And so they didn't do it, and they came with the explanation. And they said, a lot of times they was there helping bring that baby in. They said they had to hide them and all. I haven't been in that position. But I think about the things that black people do. When social workers come, they used to hide the iron and cord and stuff. Yeah, you're going through something. Oh, God got a way that even if you're going through it, I'm going to make a way that people be saying, oh yeah, you lied, you did this and that. But God had them 10 kids that they had able to get fed, because that's what that money was for. But man wanted their thought. They didn't want you to have nothing. That, like they said, they were still playing with the roaches and all. And here, their kids got toys all out in big, huge parks. But I just looked at this lesson and I said, God got a plan, y'all. Here's the war. Here these midwives could have did what he said, but they couldn't because of what was in their hearts. Yeah, we know a lot of things that they had back there. It wasn't written out for them, but God worked in their hearts and their mind. I thank God that think about that. Say if you can't read a lick, God will give you the answer. I know that for a fact. And here I see he named the two midwives in Exodus 1:15. I don't think he was doing that to put them on a pedestal, but just to show you their character. Sometimes people look at a little lowly job as nothing, but God used you in the lowly job just sweeping the church. Here you go. They are present heroes, and the Bible was put there to let you know obedience. God wanted obedience. Here we see as we go through this lesson, talking about most decisions was made in haste and anger and trying to maneuver. Here we reminded that we should never grow too comfortable in this world, because this is not our home. Opposition and suffering are inevitable. You're going to suffer. Our role is to be obedient to our heavenly King, regardless of the consequence. Only then will we have an eternal impact on temporal world we call home. Egyptians oppressed, but still blessed. Christians oppressed, but still blessed. Here, earthly leaders rise and fall. God's power is everlasting and unlimited. When God blesses his children with abundance, the enemy often seems to destroy them. Don't let the enemy get in. Arguing, because he's looking for a way. You got to know how to talk to each other, pray for one another, but also know God got a plan. Don't try to figure it out. Let God work it out. When God bless us with abundance, remember, the enemy gonna come either way, and he do just like, did you see that when Jesus was there? He came right up to him. He didn't care who he was. He challenged him. Don't you know he came and gave him the word? You think they don't know the word? Here it says, but through the strength of God, we can continue to grow. God protects them that fear him. Don't fear man. It is unwise for man to pronounce judgment against God's people. Don't do that. Because the Bible says, touch my anointed one and do my prophet no harm. He ain't leave you out just because you're a believer. And he's talking just about preaching. That said, all Christians that believe, touch them not and do them no harm. Why? Because God is standing up there and he's working it out for their good. I like how this lesson let us know you can recognize God giving growth and increase. Just put one foot in front of it. Read, study, be prayerful. A long, hard oppression. Keep the faith, and God will bring you. Sometimes the season seems difficult. It seems like it'll never end. And you just got to remember that there's a spiritual deliverance and a freedom that's unimaginable when you put God first. He has some good news for you. The devil don't never want to give you nothing good. But God said, I came that you might have life and have more abundant. So through confession and repentance and through persevering trust in the Lord, desire to honor him, the severity of your bitter life will result in a glorious deliverance. God's desire for you is that you have life. When the deliverance comes, you will be delighted of how God works it out. And that's what we see here today. God has worked it out. He couldn't stop things from moving. Any other comments? Question? Okay. All right. Let's start in the back.
I like what those midwives did. That was a good thing because they did fear God. And he blessed them at the end.
That's right.
Blessed them.
Yes, right.
And that's a good thing. And I think sometimes we should remember.
Oh, yeah.
We should remember the blessings of God, and we should remember how God has his way of working
Things out.
You know, if we might not see it God way, but God know his way, and his way is right.
And we don't want.
That's why, like, this is a good lesson.
It is.
actually.
It really is.
It's a good
And we don't want to
lesson.
leave out, you know, that he blessed those, the ones who worked for him, he blesses them.
That's true.
Yeah, so he said, one that believe in him, he blessed them. But he said, bless them with houses. And when I saw that, all I could think is, he said, I give you houses you didn't build.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It took me back to slave again. We didn't have no house. Could never own one. But we got them now. Yeah. Praise the Lord. And more.
I was kind of like looking at this in just a slightly different way.
Okay.
Going back to verse 22, when 22 says, when 22 was, and Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Now, when I was reading that, I was thinking, so it's okay, that's how things happen here. Like, and then as I kept reading in the expositor, it said basically the same thing I was thinking. It says, he charged all his people to cast every newborn son into the river. Okay, now, by doing this, by calling on his people, he was demanding that the Egyptians participate in this genocide. So that's why they got punished so severely at the end, just before the Exodus. That's why they got punished so severely. And I'm thinking, okay, now I understand why they were punished so severely, as opposed to other people who were not. Well, as opposed to when it first started. Because when it first started, it wasn't the Egyptians. It was this, what do they say in here? The Hyksos people. They were the ones who had gained control of Egypt. They gained control of Egypt, and at the very end, it was Pharaoh. If you read this, it kept saying a new king, the king of Egypt. And then all of a sudden it went from the king of Egypt to Pharaoh. And so I thought that was interesting that, I never saw that before.
Yeah.
And then you read in the history of it, and you find out that there was some time between. These verses right here, there was some time in between here, and there was an overthrow.
Yeah.
So I thought this was interesting that it was, it says right here, the Hyksos, who apparently initiated this enslavement of Israel, were driven out of the land, and then now Pharaoh decided, hey, that's a good plan, let's keep going, and so then he got his people involved, so therefore it was a mess.
So that's the same as we got now.
Oh, tell me about it.
So,
Who were those people?
this is, he just said.
Yeah, no man.
Yeah, it was.
I just want to give 666 is in birth control, and they're trying to
That's really
go our
Mhm.
And then you got, these guys during the war, they put all them drugs out there and they didn't try to help the black people. Right? And now they come with instead of them trying to help the black people grow, now they come with the opioids. They put it back out there again for the black man, but the black man didn't go on it. And they weren't trying to help the black man with the drugs. Now they want to help all, because the white people got put on the opiate.
Yeah.
Now they getting all kind of clinics and everything that they try to keep their population.
In fact, that's what it is. It's just a continuous, if you notice, it's trying to
Talking
solve.
about that,
But-
I thought about baby kids. Said if we don't die, we multiply. That's what we're doing, multiply.
And I'd like to bring the superintendent up. I wanted to read this. We have freedom to worship our God. We have jobs, food, free time, and money to spend on it. What if we shared more? What if a portion of our lives was set aside to help them? If every Christian who could donate an extra 10% to the persecuted believers, imagine how that would change the world, and not just 10% of money, 10% of time, even our prayers. What an impact we could make. And I thought about these missionaries that's going over, that we can't go, places that we go, that we have children and that need help, that's food. We should be in there. We can't give much, but whatever we can give, God put on our heart, we need to do that. Thanks, Sister.
Praise the Lord. Beautiful, beautiful lesson.
It is.
Such a long, hard oppression. And I'm not sure if I wasn't here for the very last part, if Sister Winston took you back, because I know I heard her say it was already prophesied that they were going to go through something. And so I found that in Genesis chapter 15, verses 13, 14. And what it said was, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. Okay? Abram's seed would be a stranger in a land that was not theirs, and shall serve them. So Abram's people would serve them in this strange land, and they shall afflict them 400 years. That's what Sister Winston was telling us. They would be afflicted for 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. That's God speaking. He said he'll judge them. And afterward shall they come out with great substance. And so when we see this prophecy that had taken place back in Genesis, and now we see Jacob's children and the Israelites going through this, it wasn't that they had did anything wrong. Did any of us ever ask, why are these people being oppressed like this? Did that come to mind as we were studying this lesson? Did you wonder about that? Why? It wasn't that they had done anything wrong. It was prophesied, but it was all for God's glory.
That's right. That's Bible.
It's for His glory. You might be in your trial and tribulation now, but God say He'll bring you out.
That's right.
You know, you just stick with Him. It's for His glory. It's to show somebody else His power.
That's right.
Somebody can have you underfoot, but if you standing for the Lord,
That's right.
He'll bring you out.
Yeah, He will.
And that's what this lesson is about. A long, hard oppression. God's people
That's right.
being oppressed. That's right, but God brought them out.
That's right.
And he'll bring us out too.
Amen.
And that's why we have to know to trust God. You know, the Bible tells us if we're going to follow him, we're going to suffer.
Yeah.
But he'll bring us out of it all.
Yeah.
And that's the
Amen.
message. So it's a beautiful lesson.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from it. And I even looked up that word rigor. Because rigor, that means strenuous.
Hard labor.
Hard labor. I mean labor, right, anything you could imagine. And I looked at it and it said strictness, adhering absolutely to certain constraints, to work ruthlessly, just to work. But even that, as it was brought out in the lesson, was beneficial because those women, because they had been worked so hard. Hey, the midwives wasn't telling no lie when they said that's it. They different from these other women. So when they get ready to have theirs, that just comes because the body is fit. And they said they would squat on 2 stones. And the baby would come down, you know? And so, but it was all God's plan. And it's a word for us too. You know, we need to be active. We're growing older, but we need to be active. I hear Deacon Ridgway, but stick with it. If you can't walk the 6 steps today, try to walk 10 tomorrow.
That's right.
Because that's going to make your bones and your muscles stronger.
That's right.
And that's the
All
truth.
of us, yeah.
You know, we limping and hollering, but guess what? When you start a routine and get active, you'll be surprised.
That's right.
You have less pain. You'll be taking less pain medication because the body is used to being worked.
That's right.
And it helps.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to say thank God for his word.
Hallelujah.
Beautiful, we in a new unit now. And so we just going to press forward and learn more and more about him and his will. And at that, I ask Dee to just dismiss the class, please.
Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. Go ahead, Lord. Once again, we thank you for another beautiful lesson, Lord. Continue to touch hearts, minds, and souls, Lord, so we continue to do your will, Lord, not our own, Lord. Continue to best to teach. Keep them good up in the word, Lord, so they can continue to lead us, Lord. We ask all these blessings in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.